So it looks like we got ourselves some new backstory on Victor, and the new evil in town is slowly making itself known to everyone. So let's talk about it. The episode starts at Kenny's house while he's in the kitchen chatting with his mom, and suddenly the phone rings and he picks it up and we can hear a man chanting something, but it's hard to make out what he's saying. But the last part is, "Here they come for 3 unless you stop the melody." But I got you guys as always, so here's the complete lyric if you weren't able to make out the whole thing. He says, "They touch, they break, they steal, no one here is free. Here they come for 3 unless you stop the melody." Which we find out exactly what this means in the next episode, but like I said before, I figured I'd go ahead and put that out there for you guys so you can ponder on it for a bit. Kenny hangs up on the stranger, and afterwards he begins to hear loud clicks and buzzing in the kitchen. He goes to take a look inside the pot, and we finally discover Miss Lou's secret ingredient. It's a hot boiling pot of cicadas, which, believe it or not, people actually do eat this shit, by the way. In this moment, Kenny begins to hear the music box playing, and while he's distracted, one of the cicadas from the pot lands on his arm. Then he swats it away while his mother begins to shake him, and we soon discover that Kenny was only having a nightmare and that his mother was actually trying to wake him up out of it. But it looks like Kenny actually brought something back with him from his nightmare, and it seems to be a burn mark from when the boiling hot cicada landed on his arm. And I personally already have a few theories behind this, starting with the symbolism of cicadas. So for many cultures, cicadas are a sign of resurrection, rebirth, immortality, and spiritual realization, which I would say are all relatable themes in this show. Now there's some deeper mythology behind cicadas also, but I'll leave that to my friend Fromland. But I just wanted to point that out. They're also known for damaging trees when they lay eggs, and I was thinking that may have had something to do with the trees changing, but this theory doesn't explain the plants not growing and the other changes with the trees. In some instances, cicadas could be a good omen, but I highly doubt that's what it means in this damn show. In the next scene, we jump to Jim and Randall, who are trying to get the antenna and drone combo to work. As they work on this, they further discuss the possibility of a mole, and Randall begins to question Jim about how many times has he actually seen a death in the town. And then he proceeds to present the idea that maybe the deaths were all fake, and that maybe the dead bodies they've seen so far were all fake too, like Tom and Brick. And just like that, Jim has now created a damn psycho. And I'm just joking. I mean, there has to be someone who thinks like Randall in the town. It logically makes sense to have someone there like him at some point. I personally think the writers added this character after some fans began to run away with the unconfirmed mole theory. To me, Randall is like the opposite version of Jade during his first day out. Remember that Jade also believed it was all fake, but he had a playful vibe towards everything because he thought it was all a prank by his friend Toby. Of course, that didn't last this long after he saw Toby's dead body, but I feel like Randall is like an opposite, more aggressive version of Jade the way he was in the beginning, thinking it's all fake and just blindly sticking to his own theories until shit gets serious enough. But the biggest issue with Randall is that it actually feels like his disbelief could get someone killed. Because at this point, the guy still thinks that almost everyone is in on it. Shit, I still don't think he even trusts Jim. But over at the sheriff's office, Sarah swings by to see Boyd because she wants to go back into the woods to find answers. But we find out that that's not the truth why Sarah wants to leave, and that she actually wants to leave to run away from the people in town who don't want her there. Over at Kenny's house, Victor stops by to bring Ethan a gift. He gives him his old coat since it's starting to get cold, and Ethan gives him a gift as well, and it's a drawing of himself. Victor refuses to take it because he feels that pictures are for things that are gone. Ethan tells him that if he doesn't take the drawing, he doesn't want the coat. Then Ethan invites Victor to join him and Julie as they head over to help Mrs. Lou at the diner. Over at Colony House, Boyd checks on Ellis to make sure he's feeling better since he was just stabbed and almost died like a day or two ago. But he assures Boyd that he's fine, and he tells him that Christy checked him out and she was more surprised than him. And if I'm not mistaken, this is like the second time in the show where someone was healed quickly that the other characters make a point to comment on it. You guys let me know if I'm wrong about this and maybe this means nothing, but in season 1 after Ethan's leg was injured, Tabitha points out that it healed quickly.
Are you sure this doesn't hurt?
It's just a little sore. What's wrong?
Nothing. It's just healing so fast.
So this is definitely something to keep note of until we know more. In this moment, Ellis wants to tell Boyd about the pregnancy, but he doesn't get a chance to because Donna pulls him away. During this time, we find out that Boyd wants Donna to give Sarah some work since she's bored, which we already know from earlier. But she also informs him how Elgin almost drowned in his sleep last night. Boyd goes to ask Elgin about it, and Elgin explains to him how he was in the bathtub in his dream and something pushed him under the water. And after someone woke him up, he started spitting out water. And it sounds like Freddy Krueger just landed in Fromville. Boyd goes on to ask Elgin if he told anyone about what happened at the clinic, with them killing the monsters. And of course he lies and says no, but we all know that he told Julie. Then Boyd tells him the good news about how they retrieved the bile from the monsters, but that he's not sure yet about how they need to use it. And Elgin makes a great suggestion and tells Boyd that they should use it to make silver bullets. Over at the diner, Ethan tells Victor about the internet, since he's never left the town ever and wouldn't know what the internet is. And Victor is like, ain't no damn way that's a thing. That couldn't exist. But Julie confirms it, and a little while later, Ethan discovers an old toy/crayon holder inside of Victor's coat and shows him. And suddenly we get to see a quick flashback of Victor when he was a kid, and for the first time we get to see his mom. It's a very brief clip of her telling Victor that she needs him to be brave. And then suddenly Jade and Tabitha barges in the diner, and Jade gets right in Victor's face and confronts him about keeping the symbol down in the tunnels to himself. But Victor doesn't stick around, and he tells them that he has to go. Oh man, poor Victor. He might need to stay out of the diner because almost every time he takes his ass in there, someone is usually pissed off with him about something. Jade rushes out behind Victor to get in his ass about not speaking up. And once again, he asked Victor, wouldn't you like to go home? And Victor finally tells him, this is my home. And I think it finally clicks to Jade in this moment why Victor isn't as concerned as everyone else about leaving. In the next scene, Jim and Randall stop by the church to see Sarah, and they begin to question her about where she was going with Nathan before they ended up in the town. She tells them that she was leaving New Hope, Pennsylvania and heading back to Boston. And then Jim proceeds to ask her about the day she tried to kill Ethan. And suddenly Randall loses his patience and asks Sarah if Nathan is still alive. At this time, Donna walks in and interrupts the interrogation, and Randall thinks it's too much of a coincidence that Donna is there in this moment. She's actually there to give Sarah the job of stitching some clothes since Boyd asked her to give Sarah something to do. But then Randall starts to question Donna, and he tells her that she's a toll booth operator, which he's basically calling her a mole to her face. Jim finally decides that it's a good time to pull Randall away before things get too out of hand. But it's obviously too late for that because Randall is clearly on a spiral. And unfortunately, he's kind of taking Jim with him, which is kind of crazy because Jim is smart enough to where he shouldn't be letting a hothead like Randall put ideas in his head. But I think what's happening here is that Jim is just happy to have someone who's willing to listen to him. And in this moment, that person just happens to be Randall. But Jim is a little unprepared here because he's not expecting Randall to get out of hand with his theories, which is exactly the direction things seem to be going in. After they leave the church, Jim tries to get through to Randall and explains to him how they can't just run away with assumptions. He tells Randall that they need to watch the monsters at night to see what they do when they don't know that they're being watched. So they come up with a plan to sneak out to the RV before it gets dark so they can spend the night out there and just observe the monsters. And Jim doesn't mention this part until later, but the plan is to take Randall's talisman and use it while they're out there. Over at the diner, Jim stops by to tell Tabitha that he won't be home tonight, but we already know that she's away with Victor. So he tells Julie instead that he'll be away at the RV for the night because he has an idea to get them out of the town. But he doesn't give her all the details, just enough so she'll know that he's safe. After he leaves the diner, Donna confronts him about being an idiot and putting ideas in Randall's head. But he lies to her after she asked him if he told Randall about the voice on the radio. And he basically just tells her what she wants to hear so he can leave. And in the distance, we can see that Randall was watching them during this time. Over at Colony House, we catch back up to Victor, who's sitting in his room just reminiscing about the old times. And it seems that the crayon holder has brought back some old memories for him. And once again, we get to see the flashback with him and his mother. And we find out that his mom left him in the bunker with the crayon holder, which is why it reminded him of the last time he saw her. But we already know that there's a key element that's missing here that we don't find out until the end of the episode. But of course, we'll wait to talk about that part later. Tabitha shows up at this time to check on on him, and she asked him why didn't he tell Jade about the symbol. And Victor tells her because it's not good to ask questions and that people who go looking for answers don't come back. And of course, Victor is mainly talking about his mom in this moment and how she went looking and didn't return. Tabitha tells him that looking for answers is their only way out, and he tells her that he doesn't think that there is a way out. Victor eventually ends up telling her that the night the bad things happened, his mother told him that they were going home. And he goes on to tell Tabitha more details about what his mom said that night, but he is unable to remember. But he goes on to tell her that he has some drawings hidden somewhere where he would never have to see them again and he would never have to remember what happened. But thankfully, he does tell her that he remembers where he put them. And I think it should be clear to everyone by now that Victor suppressed all these memories because as a child he was traumatized. So to maintain his sanity, he locked away all the terrible memories, and I think it's safe to say that that's the way it's been for him all these years until now. In the next scene, Boyd goes to see Kenny to tell him about the idea that Elgin had for a way to use the bile against the monsters. He tells him that they can dip the bullets in the bile and fire from a safe distance to test it out. Once Boyd and Kenny arrives at the hospital, Christy and Marielle tells them that something is going on downstairs. They tell them that a weird sound is coming from down there, so Boyd and Kenny head down to check it out. Once they get down there, they start to hear the strange noise coming from the boiler room. Boyd tells Kenny to go back upstairs, but now he's all brave and shit and ready for war, which is finally nice to see. As they edge closer to the body on the table, we can see that something is moving underneath the sheet. Now, in the press version of this episode, the special effects aren't visible during this scene, but from the sound we hear, it would seem that Grin and Gary's corpse is covered in cicadas, which seems to be the theme of this episode. Once everyone gets back upstairs, Kenny reveals to them that he saw the cicadas in his dream, and the group slowly starts to put together that everyone's dreams seem to be coming to life. And at the end of this scene, which also seems to be another theme for this episode, is that Donna walks in just in time to get caught up on what's happening. And I'm not saying that I think Donna is a mole. I'm just saying that I think it's kind of funny the way that the writers found a way to make her a part of these scenes so we can have the ending that we got for this episode. Then we jump back to Victor and Tabitha, as we can see that we are now back in the car graveyard again. Victor reveals to Tabitha that although he wants to help, he's afraid to remember. But in this moment, Tabitha tells him that she needs him to be brave, which is the same thing that Victor's mom told him. And no, I do not think that Tabitha was Victor's mom in a different alternate universe. Personally, I don't think that, but I know some people are definitely going to say that. But I do think that this might mean that Tabitha may be following a similar path as the one that Victor's mom went in, and you guys will see why I said this later. Back at the hospital, Donna is of course upset that Boyd didn't tell her about the monster, but she knows now, and he proceeds to tell her how he pulled something out of it that could possibly help kill the rest. He takes Donna inside with him to show her the monster corpse covered in cicadas. But once they get down there, we can see that the cicadas have now disappeared, and Donna looks at Boyd and tells him that he needs to burn it. In the next scene, we can see them moving the body as they prepare to burn it. Boyd believes that if they burn the body, that maybe it will get rid of what's happening with the dreams, but he still thinks that they should sleep in shifts until they know more. Christy agrees to go stay over at Colony House with Marielle, and Boyd tells them that Sarah will stay with him over at the sheriff's station. During this time, we can see Randall peeking around the corner in the background like a damn psycho. Then we cut back to Victor and Tabitha at his mom's car to see them pop the trunk and reveal the hidden drawings. Suddenly, all the memories begin to flood back to Victor as he digs through the drawings. And here is where we discover that Victor had a little sister named Eloise. And we see that the crayons and the crayon holder actually belong to her, and I assume along with the drawings. We see in a flashback that their mom told them to wait there and that she would come back to take them home, but never returned. In the flashback, we can see that Eloise ran off to join her mom and Victor was left alone. And as these memories hit Victor, he just begins to break down. Over at Colony House, Randall catches up to Donna and tells her that he would like to talk, and he implies that he wants to finally work together. But we know what's up. And then we see somewhere outside the town, Boyd and Kenny burn the monster corpse. And Kenny expresses his new fears regarding the new Nightmare on Front Street threat. I hope you guys like that. Back with Victor and Tabitha, Victor tells her how Eloise ran away. and how he feels guilty for not protecting her. In this moment, Tabitha sees a drawing of the lighthouse, and Victor tells her that that's where his sister said his mom was going the night the bad things happened. He tells Tabitha that his mom went to save the children locked in the tower, and it would seem that Tabitha has a little more insight now behind the children she's been seeing. Then we cut back to the diner where we can see Mrs. Lou, Julie, and Ethan is locking up for the night, and they run into Boyd and Kenny. And during this time, they can hear all those loud ass cicadas and some guy screaming for help at Sarah's old house. The guy is covered in blood, and before we have a chance to gather more information, we cut to Jim as he arrives at the RV to meet up with Randall. Jim sees Donna's van, and the episode ends after we eventually see that Randall has her tied to a tree. So yeah, Randall is like hell with the old plan, I got something better. And honestly, I already knew that Randall would slowly become a problem. I'm pretty sure we probably all did, so I wasn't surprised to see this. Also, Victor having a sister is a new interesting detail, and she might even still be alive as far as we know. But what do you guys think about that? But the coolest thing about this episode is that there's a nightmare on From Street. And episode 9 is a lot of fun in my personal opinion, so I'm looking forward to discussing that with you guys next week. But as always, thank you for watching.